And hello, friends. Welcome to another episode of Chapters here on Armstrong Television. Chapters is the television show that profiles authors, editors, and publishers in West Virginia, Ohio, and Kentucky. I'm Elliot Parker, and it's great to have you with us. We're talking science fiction and dystopian writing on this episode of Chapters with Charleston native and West Virginia author Royce Sears, who joins us here today on the program. And Royce was born in the heart of West Virginia, and he dreamed of becoming a writer throughout his entire younger years and was always an avid reader. He started out with old and often temperamental typewriter, which he used to write poems and stories that helped develop his young imagination. He's a kind-hearted teacher in junior high school and ran into a kind-hearted teacher in junior high school who took his first manuscript home for the summer, painstakingly read through pages and pages of violent, poorly written combat scenes, and from there she returned at the following school year with red marks, suggestions, and encouragement that fueled his desire to write, and that is where his writing career began. He later joined the U.S. Navy, serving on the USS Belknap, the USS Mississippi, and at Naval Medical Center Portsmouth in Portsmouth, Virginia. After a brief career in sales, he went back to school at Marshall University, and he's now a registered nurse in Charleston, West Virginia, working at one of the largest hospital systems in the region. And we're delighted to have Royce Sears here with us today to talk to us about his new novel, The Elegance of Nature, Prophecies of the New World. So, Royce, welcome to Chapters. It's good to have you here.
Thank you, Elliot. It's great to be here. Appreciate you inviting me to be here.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about how all this got started for you. We heard just a moment ago about your junior high experience and that one teacher who was nice enough to take your manuscript home and give you some feedback. But from that point up to now, what led to the creation of your first novel, The Elegance of Nature?
Well, it's been a long process, obviously. It's for me, I didn't feel like I was ready to write until now. I wanted to kind of develop that skill set. For this book itself, it started off as a short story, as most of our most novels do. This book itself is, I've always been really interested in apocalyptic science fiction, dystopian science fiction. My first introduction to it was in a novel that I found in my grandparents' house. It was by Andre Norton, Daybreak 2250, fantastic novel. And that kind of was what I cut my teeth on in science fiction. So,
very good, excellent. And we'll talk more about your process for writing here a little bit later on. But there are so many fantastic characters in this book, and as we know with science fiction, fantasy writing, especially dystopian writing, characters are so important as well as the setting and the scene and the world in which you created. So I want to ask you a little bit about some of your characters. We meet a character first in Chapter 1, really one of the first characters we're exposed to, Atokte. Tell us a little bit about him and the role he plays and what goes on in the story.
Well, Atokte is a member of a developing society. We have in this world, humanity has been decimated to the brink of extinction. This is set 75 years after a virus pretty much wipes out humanity. Atokte's role in this story, he is a member of a Native American society. They have gone back to their roots in order to survive. Obviously, in this type of setting, you have viral mutants that were created by the virus, and just survival is the real key to this world. Atokte himself experiences a vision after he is injured in combat, and kind of sets the stage for the developing drama that opens up into the revelation of a lost prophecy that involved, it was an Anishinaabe prophecy. It's called the Prophecy of the Seven Fires. This prophecy details, and it was handed down, this is an actual prophecy, it was handed down by seven different prophets before the white man even came to this continent. And Atokte kind of reintroduces or opens the door for this prophecy to be reinstated and have its effect on the Native American people.
And you talked about the Earth as we know it, or I don't want to say Earth, or this planet or this time period, in this world that takes place in your story. one of the things we learn as we go through the story is that an infection has sort of overtaken the planet. Can you tell us a little bit about that infection and without giving too much away, kind of the impact it has on what we see taking place in the story?
Absolutely. The infection itself was brought by an alien race. They were making first contact with humanity. The aliens, in their excitement and jubilation at finding other sentient life within the galaxy, they land and step out, not realizing that they brought a cold virus with them, just a simple cold virus. This cold virus does not mesh well with our ecology and causes massive changes to our ecology, both in humans, in the wildlife. We have a lot of your domesticated animals do not survive, cattle, horses, these types of things.
Interesting. It's so fascinating to think about that and to think about how, we look at a virus like the common cold and it's something certainly that's treatable. It might make us feel miserable for a few days, but to think about another species bringing their common cold into our planet or into this world and the destruction that it could cause, something so simple that we would think of as a cold virus to come from a different species is really interesting.
Well, the elegance of a virus, which is why I chose the elegance of nature as part of the title of this series, a virus carries with it. Most people don't realize, and I kind of get this from my training as a nurse, most people don't realize that a virus actually carries with it pieces of DNA. And those pieces of DNA from the original species is what modified our ecology.
Interesting, very interesting. I wanted to ask you about two more characters that we meet early on in the story, Jaden and Eric, who are on a hunt. Tell us a little bit about what they're up to and what their role is and what we see early on in the story.
Jaden is one of the central characters within the novel. They are a part of a family that has survived this catastrophe. They live in a cave complex, and at this point in the story, they're simply trying to provide food for their family. Survival is the real key in this world, and without food, without shelter, away from the viral mutations, you don't have much chance of surviving.
And I liked what you wrote on page 20, which gives us some insight into what's going on here. You talk about the Fects, F-E-C-T-S, and you say, the Fects were a fact of life for Jaden, Eric, and their family. In the early days, after calamity befell the human race, they were known as the infected. Some were merely very sick in the beginning, while others began to change. They were no longer human, but there was no pattern to the changes wrought by the infection. Some became monstrous beasts, growing 4 to 5 times their size. Others developed tentacles. So there is very much a sense that you're either on one side or the other of this virus. Either you've semi-made it through or you were wiped out or changed horribly from what happened there.
Absolutely. The virus itself, as we've seen in any other viral outbreak, you're going to have those that have stronger immune systems. You're going to have those that are immune to the virus itself. They're the more mutagenic viruses. Some people have the capability to fight off this virus. They may have been infected by it, they may be a carrier of it, but they may not actually have changed or mutated as a result of the virus. The virus itself, it's proliferative. It was airborne in the initial, as we see with the flashback with when Gramps was a boy, we get to see some of the initial spread of the virus.
And one thing I thought was really interesting, too, that takes place in the story is we see characters, and you write about how characters have dreams, and in these flashback points when we go back and see certain characters doing different things. How did you decide to use those dreams, and what do we gain from those dreams when we see those characters dreaming or they wake up sort of startled from a dream? What does the dreams do in terms of moving the plot of the story forward?
The dreams themselves, I left that as a mystery for a couple of the characters because they have some haunting pasts. And those mysteries will develop as the series develops. We really get involved in a few characters and how they are interacting within their environment, especially within the family, the cave family. They meet a new face for the first time. They've never seen anyone outside their family. they meet a new face, and this new face is he's got some issues, and we kind of explore the origin of those issues through his dream, and we'll get more into that as the series develops.
You mentioned that this book is about survival, and usually anytime you have a book like this with several characters, everybody's trying to survive, but in some cases work their own angle or survive under their own circumstances or what they determine to be their own circumstances. So I want to ask you about a couple characters who really caught my attention as we move through the story. One is Father Carlin.
Okay.
And there's a scene in the book where he's a little bit violent towards a couple of characters, Emma and Trish.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about him and about that scene, why he's violent towards them, and really what are his motives in terms of trying to survive this new sort of post-apocalyptic world.
Father Carlin is a complex character. Father Carlin is the leader of a society. It's set down near Amarillo, Texas. His motivations within the novel, within the story, is power. He is a power-hungry leader of these people. He wants to further develop his power base. What he doesn't necessarily realize is that he is also a pawn of the high priest that we meet briefly. The high priest is shrouded within mystery. The high priest is a character that we only briefly explore within the first book. He will play a much greater role in the further novels. The problem with the high priest is he doesn't. Nobody really knows who he is. Father Carlin doesn't even know who the high priest is. He simply steps in. He delivers a few words here and there, but he's the one really pulling the strings within New Jerusalem.
Yeah, very interesting. And I, when I came across Father Carlin, and you set him up so well to where as soon as we're introduced to him, we can just tell something's not quite right. There's just something about him that is not on the up and up. And then when we see that scene with Emma and Trish, we get a little bit more insight into that. Another character who I absolutely loved but found extremely vile and repulsive was Cody. And I know that he's just a great character, but he's just so vile and repulsive for some of the things that he does. And the one scene that I thought was really emblematic of the kind of character he is when he attacks and kills Gramps.
Yes.
And we have that scene where he's got his foot on Gramps' throat and he's almost taunting him. Gramps can't really move, he can't really breathe. He's kind of, sort of squirming on the floor there. And Cody just puts his foot harder and harder on his throat and keeps taunting him. It's just such a powerful scene. So tell us a little bit about Cody, what his role is in the story, and where did you get the idea to create such an interesting but yet vile character?
Well, Cody, his role within the story is he's an instigator. He is sent to bring in, he's a gatherer for New Jerusalem. He's sent to bring in valuables. Obviously, when you are developing in a religious society, especially a religious society that's based on the early books of the Bible, if you've ever read the first 5 or 6 books of the Bible, there's a lot of gold, there's a lot of valuables. They're collecting these things. And on top of that, they're a developing society. They need labor. They need people. And Cody's primary objective is the valuables as well as the people. He goes out, he finds people that have survived, he brings them into New Jerusalem, whether through force or through coercion, gets them in, and they become part of the workforce. If they are able to adjust and accept the rules and the lifestyle of New Jerusalem, they have the ability to move forward and develop into New Jerusalem, but only if you play by the rules. Cody himself, the inspiration for Cody with these types of books, you really set up, this novel is a little bit of a genre bender in terms of science fiction and fantasy. With epic fantasy, you almost always have this good versus evil dichotomy in the background, and you really need these antagonistic characters that the readers are going to both identify with in many ways, but at the same time totally hate. Mm-hmm. I had one of my readers came to me at the book signing yesterday, and she says, "Your character Cody, either you kill him or I'm going to kill him.
Yeah, and I think that's a perfect description for him, because there are so many times in the story I'm fascinated by him, and I want to keep reading and learn more about him. But at the same time, I want somebody to come and give him what he deserves. And so, but you're right. I think that's what makes him so interesting. Is you love to hate him, but you can't. When he's on the page, you can't turn away. You want to know exactly where he is and what he's doing. One of the things we see in the book in terms of a device is the font changes in various chapters. For example, in chapter 11, we start out with a certain font, and then it goes away into more of a larger font that's in bold print. In terms of a device, what should the reader expect when they come across that, when they see that font change and they see the font in bold print? What does that indicate in terms of what's happening in the story?
Generally, I use the font change primarily to indicate a flashback. And I actually got the idea from another author. One of the books that I read recently was by Cass Morgan, The 100. I first saw the TV show, fell in love with the TV show. I had to explore her book. And I noticed when she went into a flashback scene, she differentiated this flashback scene from the normal text of the book with a font change. And I thought that was a fantastic device to kind of get the reader into, well, I'm no longer in the present. There's something else happening here.
Absolutely, so which I thought was really interesting, and I know, and after you get into the couple of the chapters there, then you see that pattern, and so you know when it's coming that there is going to be that change, which I think was really neat. One other thing I wanted to ask you about was some of the quotes that we see pop up at the beginning of the chapter. I mentioned chapter 11 a moment ago. There's a quote by Tennessee Williams. We have quotes from Emily Dickinson in there. There's some other quotes as well from some other famous writers. T.S. Eliot, I think, is also mentioned in the book.
Pearl S. Buck as well, famous West Virginian.
Absolutely, she's in there too. What is the reason for those quotes, and how do they tie into what's happening in the book?
Well, the epigraphs at the beginning of the chapter, they tend to give us an idea of what's going to happen. What I did was I went back after I finished writing the chapter. A lot of writers will start off, as Stephen King especially. Stephen King references, he likes to start off with a quote, and then he'll go back to that quote to kind of see, am I sticking with my original plan for this chapter? What I did was after I finished writing the chapter, I kind of looked for quotes, some of my favorite quotes that really kind of spoke to what was happening within the chapter. And they kind of set the scene, a little bit of foreshadowing for the reader to kind of get an idea where we're going in this chapter.
And I even kind of associated that with the personality of the author, because when I saw Emily Dickinson's quote, I thought, oh, I know a little bit about her personality. Tennessee Williams the same, T.S. Eliot the same, Pearl Buck. So I think it is interesting how that ties in not only to the mood, but also to some degree the personality of the author who stated that quote sometimes filters its way into the chapters, which is really neat. A really neat,
thank you.
Neat technique.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about another character.
Okay.
In chapter 17, we meet Captain of the Hands of God, Captain Daniel Carter.
Captain Daniel Carter, yes. Fantastic character.
He's a great character. Tell us a little bit about him, because other than Cody, he was probably my favorite character. He was another one of those characters I just didn't want to look away from when his name was on the page. So tell us a little bit about him.
Well, I don't know if you are similar to me in this respect. As an author, when I'm writing a scene, I tend to associate an actor or something like that with a scene or with a character, that I can kind of put this character into that person, and I can see how they might react in this situation. This particular character, the man who played Thor, his name is escaping me at the moment, Chris Hemsworth.
Yes.
Chris Hemsworth. I had Captain Daniel Carter pictured as Chris Hemsworth. He is just this survivalist. He has. We go back into a little piece of his history in one of the chapters. We get to see how he made it into New Jerusalem. We get to see the strength of his character through part of his history. Captain Daniel Carter is driven by faith. His faith is unshakable. He looks at his recruits, he looks at his soldiers as the warriors of God. They are protecting the people of New Jerusalem from the abominations, Satan's children that are roaming the land, that have taken over the earth. And their prerogative, their mission is to eradicate the abominations. They see it as a mandate from God that they take back the planet. And as a result of this mandate, their job is to go out, hunt down these things, kill them, and at the same time, they also have to look at the people left on the earth. They're looking at the fact that God had to purge the earth again. They don't want this to ever happen again. So they operate from the idea that they cannot let anyone who is not subservient to the will of God survive.
Interesting, very interesting. And he does play a pivotal role in that process. So how long did it take you to write this book?
This one, like I said, started off as a short story, progressed over the course of time of about 1.5 to 2 years, and then just kind of blossomed into what it has become. And I'm really proud of where this is going.
Great. It's a fantastic book. So do you write sporadically? Do you have a regimented writing schedule? How does that work for you in terms of when you get an idea and you've got the momentum and you're ready to sit down and start putting words on the screen or words on paper? What's your time like and your process like?
My time, obviously, I'm a registered nurse. I work full-time. I work night shift, so a lot of times I will get off work. I've had this fantastic idea over the course of the night. I'll get off work and just sit down and crank out 1,000 words or even 2,000 or 3,000 words in the course of a day. A lot of times, as a fellow author, you might know that first draft is terrible, but you've gotten it on the paper.
Right.
You can't edit at a blank sheet.
Right. Absolutely. Lee Child calls it the vomit draft.
Yes.
That your first draft ought to be the vomit draft because as you're writing it, it makes you want to vomit. After you read it, when you're finished, it makes you want to vomit. But you're right, you've got to have that first draft in order to do that. So you mentioned early on in the program that this is going to evolve into a series of novels.
Yes.
So I'm assuming you're working on the second book. Can you give us some insight into where that book's going to go, where that book's going to take us when we finish up here with what happens in the Prophecies of the New World?
Well, what we're going to see is the two societies are going to start having a little bit more interaction. We're also going to explore a little bit more into New Jerusalem. We're going to find out a little bit more about the high priest. The high priest is going to play a much more pivotal role in the upcoming novel. We had the first blows in what will become a war in the New World. They were struck within the Prophecies of the New World, and we will see. We're going to see Jaden's character develop dramatically. There's a lot of changes that are going to be happening. He's got a mission. He's got family members that are here within that he needs to save, and without giving away too much, there's going to be a lot of character development within the second book.
Great. I'm looking forward to it very much. And I wanted to ask you too, because I think science fiction, fantasy, dystopian writers are some of our best writers because of what they have to do in terms of not only creating this world and sort of the norms and the rules of this world, but also the characters and the depth that have to be created in order to get them involved in the story. Anybody that would be thinking about writing something science fiction or fantasy, or anybody that's maybe muddling through a short story or a draft of a novel, any suggestions or pieces of advice you would give them about writing in this genre and being able to see it through all the way to conclusion?
Absolutely. One of the key elements to science fiction, and this is why this is more of a genre bender, one of the key elements to science fiction is an analysis of what's going on in our world. We need to, as authors, address contemporary issues. And some of those issues can be very well explored within fiction. One of the things that I really wanted to hammer down with this novel was the idea of sustainability. We explore the Native American society. We explore them going back to their roots. We explore the fact that they live within their own niche within the environment. I'm reading a book right now called The Ecological Indian that kind of explores the possibilities for species extinction over the course of time. We need to look at, like I did with this book, we need to look at the issues that are confronting us currently and take those issues into the forefront using our fiction. You can explore so many things and really address these issues. And that's what I hope to do with this, is kind of create more of an idea of sustainability. Let's help man find our way into the appreciation of the elegance of nature.
I think that's fantastic, and a great reason to write, a great reason to keep writing this particular series. So, Royce, in our final moments with you, if someone wants to get a copy of your book, The Elegance of Nature, Prophecies of the New World, if they'd like to get in touch with you about your writing, or if they have questions about your writing or your book, where can they get copies of your book, and how can they get in contact with you?
Well, I will always promote our local bookstores. Empire Books here in Huntington, fantastic venue. The book is available here at Empire Books. It's also available at Taylor Books in Charleston, as well as Books and Brews in Hurricane. Big shout out to them. Fantastic coffee. It's also available to contact me. I am on the web, www.roycesears.com, ROYCESEARS. And then it's also available on Amazon. It's available on all the e-reader versions. They can get that. People can get that just about anywhere now.
Great, fantastic. Well, The Elegance of Nature, Prophecies of the New World is the latest book from Royce Sears, and he's been here talking to us about it today. It's a fantastic book, great characters, and for anybody who likes science fiction, fantasy, or dystopian writing, or as you mentioned, a mix of the three, or wants to see that genre bent a little bit, it's a terrific book. Congratulations, and we look forward to the sequel, and as you keep writing, we'll have you back on to talk about it. So congratulations. Thanks a lot.
Wonderful. Thank you, Elliot.
And we also want to take a moment to say thanks to Natalie Sheets and the staff and management at Empire Books and News for providing our studio taping space today, and also providing other on-site support and assistance. We encourage you to stop by the all-new, brand-new Empire Books and News. If it's been a while since you've been down to the store, come down and check out the changes that have been made. I think you'll really be pleased with what you see. Talk to Natalie and her staff and ask them if they can help you find the genre or the book that you might be looking for, or a book that could satisfy even the pickiest reader in your family or in your circle of friends right here at Empire Books and News. They also have the largest magazine selection in the tri-state right here at the store. So we encourage you to come by Empire Books and News, and we appreciate them sponsoring our programs each time here on Chapters. And if you've got a question, comment, or suggestion about this Chapters program or any Chapters program that you've seen here on Armstrong Television, we'd love to hear from you. You can reach out to us at the email address that's here at the bottom of the screen, lp4@zoominternet.net. Please let us know your name and where you're writing from when you do send those emails, and we promise you we do read all the comments and the feedback that are received through that email address, so please keep that feedback coming. And if you've missed an episode of Chapters from our 3+ seasons of episodes of author, editor, and publisher interviews, you can check those out on the Armstrong One Wire page on YouTube. The address is also here at the bottom of the screen for how to access that. It's www.youtube.com/ArmstrongOneWire. From there, click on the Chapters tab, and you can go back and see all the episodes from our seasons of episodes and tapings here on Chapters. We also encourage you to check out the Chapters page on Facebook. If you're on Facebook, we've got a Chapters page located there as well. We post original content that's not on the YouTube channel, and you can find that just by going to facebook.com. In the search field, type in Chapters, and there you can find all the information about the program, ways to get in contact with us, and also some additional content that you won't see either on the program or on the YouTube channel there through the Facebook page, on the Chapters Facebook page. So we encourage you to check that out as well. And if you're looking for an opportunity to showcase your work as a writer or aspiring writer, Empire Books and News sponsors a Writers Can Read open mic event, which is held the third Monday of each month right here at the store from 7 until 8:30. So you can come and bring and share a 10 to 15 minute piece of something that you're working on. It could be in progress or something completed, and get some feedback from an audience of readers, writers, and people that love books and love words. That's the Writers Can Read event, third Monday of each month, right here at Empire Books and News. So all kinds of different ways that you can get involved, both as a writer and a reader, through the Chapters program here on Armstrong Television, and also through the Writers Can Read event. So we encourage you to take advantage of those opportunities. And that's going to do it for us this time on Chapters, but please come again next time. And in the meantime, stay tuned to this station for news and views that impact you and your community.